I want to give myself the space to speak freely about something that's most alive for me right now, and that is around addictive patterns and cravings and attachments, and how we might experience them louder when we're in times of challenge, and the piece around this being a coping mechanism where our mind believes that the emotions that we're experiencing are too big for us to hold, for us to allow to be and move. So the mind will direct us to distractions such as whatever it is, chocolate, TV, wine, whatever it is. And it doesn't mean that any of those things are inherently bad, but I know for myself that if I have those, if we keep it to the consumables as in chocolate and wine, if I consume those from a place of not being grounded as a means to distract myself, then it just aggravates that, and it kind of just sends me off on this wiggly path of like disconnection from myself and more craving, more attachment. I don't think that having those things when we're not feeling grounded is ever truly satisfying, because we want more and more, because it's coming from the ego, from the mind-made self, which is never ever going to be satisfied. So I feel like if we notice that these things are amped up in our experience, these cravings, it's definitely worth tuning in to see if there's any emotions that need to be felt, and choosing in those moments to see it as an opportunity to more deeply build trust and safety in our system, that we can hold what's coming up for us, rather than giving in to these different coping mechanisms which take us away from that sense of being able to hold ourselves. They might lead us to a moment of safety because those parts are there to protect us, and all parts of us in terms of internal family systems, which speaks to the fact that we have this self energy that's always there, doesn't need to be developed. That's where we feel compassion, curiosity, calm, creativity. And then we have all these different parts that have developed in response to our experience that have different ways of keeping us safe, and we have different protectors. We have exiled parts that have been sort of pushed out to protect us from that pain at whatever time we might have experienced trauma. And to be able to know that these cravings and attachments come from a place of wanting to feel safe and comforted, and to know that we have this self energy allows us to take that step back and witness, and know that when we are in those cravey patterns, those grippy patterns, it's a part of us that's acting up to support us, rather than it being from this self energy that's sustainable, grounded. So yeah, an invitation to really practice when you notice more of these grippy patterns, to practice sitting with yourself, feeling those feelings, knowing that emotions are energy in motion, and they just want to move, and they can't hurt us, and none of them are too big for us to actually hold. I was talking with a friend yesterday about energy movement in the body, and how I heard many years ago that it's when we don't let emotions move that they get stuck, and that's when the mind steps in and tries to understand, which it's just not the mind's job to process emotions. So that's when we get stories, because they're stuck in the system and they need to be released. So I've reached a place lately of feeling more capacity to witness my experience and discomforts, and I accept that earlier this year I had a time of finding that harder to sense that stillness, that self energy, that peace within, and have compassion for the parts of me, the old parts that stepped forward and offered different things to comfort and console me when I was going through a difficult thing. And like with many processes in life, I feel like I'm circling back to the way that feels so true in my heart, that the path to peace is to cultivate this relationship with this self energy, with this spaciousness within, where all of these little cravings and attachments and grippy patterns arise from. And the more we can focus on prioritising that relationship and sensing that space as our true nature, the less hold these have on us, the more compassion we can have for them, and the more visible their true needs are, and we can actually see through how it's presenting, such as, I just need to eat a whole bar of chocolate right now, and form a relationship also with that part that has learned that means comfort or safety or whatever it is, and really know ourselves by practicing feeling into this spacious, peaceful place within us and believing that is our true nature. From them, we get to relate with these parts and not be swept away by them. And every time we have one of those challenges where the emotion feels too big, there's an addictive pattern rearing its head from the past, it's an opportunity to breathe really deep and really, really tap in to this self energy, this capacity to witness and understand and validate these parts and liberate them from these patterns. And that feels really supportive for me, just to know that we do have this self energy and it doesn't need to be developed. It's our awareness of it and allowing that to be where we operate from that we get to work on. Yeah, I've just been going back to sort of early Buddhist and other spiritual teachings about the mind and all the illusions of limitation that the mind creates, and the truth of our eternal nature and the love that we are, and remembering that anything that is in opposition to this sense of deep okayness, this deep presence and peace and ability to see the big picture and trust where we are and let ourselves be who we are. Just reading in this beautiful book earlier called Unlocking the 7 Secret Powers of the Heart, about, if we're not going to be ourselves, then who is? And I loved that in 5 Rhythms as well. If you're not going to dance your dance, who is? It's so easy for us to slip into judgment, criticism, comparison of ourselves, and look at other people and think that we should be doing what they're doing, but who would then do what we're here to do? You know, we've all got a unique imprint, a unique path, a unique destiny. I really believe that. So I'm returning to this space with a deeper compassion for myself and for what it means to be human after going through grief and a lot of questioning of who I am and how I'm doing things. I'm feeling humbled by the experience of navigating big, difficult emotions, and with a desire to provide support for people to know themselves from this place, to feel able to be with whatever arises in their experience, and to feel equipped with accessible tools to access this place when things that happen to us as humans happen for us, however we frame it, experiences that we have that can throw us off. I really want to provide tools for people to be able to catch themselves in those moments and to feel supported and to be a source of nourishment, nurture, guidance, reminders for all of you wonderful people that are doing life and doing so well and navigating your own waves and, you know, navigating at this time where there's a lot of grief and suffering in the world. Another wonderful person pointed out to me the other day that there's so much happening in the world that's going to affect us, however aware or attuned to it we are, because we're all one at the end of the day, that things might be impacting us more than they would because of that already having that capacity taken by knowing what's happening in the world, you know. So yeah, I'm in this space of reimagining, returning, coming full circle, really getting honest with what I feel called to do and what doesn't call me, and to fundamentally listen to my body, listen to my heart, which is what I've been called to do in the deepest way I ever have this year. And it's been incredibly confronting and painful, but there was no other way, and I have to let this be my compass, because if I don't, it really leads to suffering for me and others. And as I said, you know, we've got all these different parts of us that have different ideas about what's best for us, and my intention is to make choices that are the most beneficial for the most of my system that they can be. And that really means, with this intention, to achieve and be able to live from inner harmony and to have different parts on board with each other, that if part of me suggests that one thing might be a solution for work, for having more income, something like that, on like a daily practical basic needs level, but it feels like contraction in my body, I have to listen to that. This is like the piece that was the most revealing to me when I learned about the fact that we can choose to navigate life by our intuition and body rather than our mind. And it was so simple at the beginning because it was such a potent shift that it was like, oh my god, there's not even space for doubt. I've just jumped onto a water slide and off I go. Here I am, life, you know. And then over time we go through more challenge, there's more subtleties, nuances, and we really need faith in order to remember those moments of like, hell yes, this is the path for me. So if this resonates for you, I'm really excited that you're here, and I'm going to be creating some new mini practices. Over the years, I've gathered a few of such practices on my phone from particular teachers that have really helped me. And it just feels so supportive to know that wherever I am, I've got access to these words, this transmission, these timeless wisdoms that don't expire, you know, they land for me and remind me and deepen this groove in my system, in my nervous system, and remind me of that, the way of being that feels the most true and my true essence. So it's my intention to provide some accessible practices with all of this in mind, with my most authentic transmission and devotion to service in this world. And I'm excited. Yeah. So stay tuned. I'm also really excited to just support people and to really find my truest way of doing that amongst all the hats that I wear, you know. And yeah, I won't go into where I'm at with that now, but I'm really happy to have you here. Thank you so much for listening. Let me know what resonates, and look out for my new meditation series. There's a free practice that you can access from the link below, which is about restoring your strength, and there'll be more coming soon. Thank you. I'm Nicola Luna Rose, and I appreciate you being here.